Hello, team. Can you hear me all right?
We can,
Yeah.
Michael.
All right. That's good.
You're delegating the chair to me since I'm in person. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes. And since I'm the only one here, does that make me king for a day?
Definitely.
Thank you, sir. Any word from Bobby? We're going to get started. Not wait for Bobby, if you guys are okay with that. Carrie, you good? Attorney, are you good?
Yep.
All right, we're going to start by opening the meeting for Tuesday, July 11th, Board of Commissioners meeting, Port of Bellingham. Start by taking roll. Michael Shepard.
Present.
Bobby Briscoe. Not with us. Ken Bell is present. That does constitute a quorum for the Port of Bellingham, so we will conduct the meeting. We will start today by doing a couple of things. I'm going to announce the advisory committees, and then we're going to go to public testimony. We ask that when you give your public comment that it be limited to 3 minutes. We don't have a timer, but we have an internal clock.
I have a timer.
Ooh. Don't make her whip it out, because it'll. So the advisory committee meetings, I know we have the Washington, the BIAC, Bellingham International Airport Advisory Committee on July 13th. That's coming up at 4 p.m. It's a Zoom meeting. Can I assume that's not going to be in person? Or will it be at the ARF building in person?
It'll be your choice.
I think it needs to be in person at the ARF building as well as Zoom if that's possible on the 13th. The MAC Advisory Committee has been on hold until the end of the summer. So those are the advisory committee meetings. Now we have public testimony. I've got 3 names on my list. Anybody else wishing to sign up, just hang on a minute, raise your hand and we'll let you speak. Anybody online, if you could just give us a sign, raise your hand or let us know that you would like to speak at some point. But I'm going to start with Dan Tucker. You want to talk about some waterfront?
Can you hear me, Ken?
I can. Taking roll again.
All right, very good.
Commissioner Briscoe, are you present?
Here.
Thank you, sir. Dan?
Good afternoon. Dan Tucker with the Whatcom Working Waterfront Coalition, and I just wanted to read a quick statement. Bellingham is growing. Our region is one of the most desirable places to live, according to several articles. And businesses and people are moving in, and development is actually sometimes struggling to keep pace in some places. And this creates a mounting pressure on our waterfront to help accommodate this growth, and we all want our waterfront properties to evolve and benefit from the new opportunities and investments that are coming into town. We have a unique waterfront here in Whatcom that truly lends itself to creating a stable base to help keep our county affordable and resilient amid the high fluctuations of neighboring cities and metropolitan areas. And the maritime and marine trades that share our shores next to our homes and parks are vital in maintaining the balance and balance of uses that create that stable base, providing living wage jobs, revenue, and an economic foundation we can build from. Our waterfront economy is a needed check to the overdevelopment seen in other places where the cost of living has far outpaced the locals and the local economies. The Whatcom Working Waterfront Coalition knows the value of maintaining the balance along the waterfront of these different uses and would like to thank the port and our commissioners for also understanding the need for that balance as well, and for working with the community to develop and grow our working waterfronts to keep this region affordable and accessible for all. So, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate the kind words. Okay, Nick? Is it Hardluck? Partridge? So
Is this for the-
This is public testimony, this is not your presentation?
Yeah.
You don't have anything,
Sit down.
Apologies, Port Commissioner. Nick Hartridge will be speaking as a part of a formal Port Commission presentation in a few minutes. Thanks.
would you like to just take his speech and reread it? Because that was pretty nice. I'm kidding. Yeah, he nailed it. Yeah, he did. All right, so I'm assuming you also are going to wait for the presentation, yes? Yeah, okay. Anybody else wishing to speak, would you just signify by raising your hand if you're online, or anybody in the audience? Just move to the microphone. Seeing none. Okay, we will move to consent agenda. Carrie?
Motion to approve consent agenda items A through L.
I'm just going to do a quick check. You still with us, Bobby?
Yes.
Okay. And Michael, you're still with us?
Yes.
Okay, good. Bobby, you got anything you want to say about the consent agenda?
No.
Michael?
Nope, looks good to me.
Okay, I'm going to ask we address item E just a little bit. As I was, and then I think we can probably approve it, but I wanted to, I called and gave Rob a little heads up on this. As we're looking at what Aliotti has got planned for that area down there, and we look at the lease that, the modification that's being put in there, it's very specific to fish and chips, and it's also very specific to the uses that he can have. I believe that right now we're in the process, he's in the process of trying to get permits and is being denied some of his permits. My fear is that if we're too restrictive, or another fear is that we're going to come back on this, knowing, Tom, that we might be back on this 5 times. And I'm just wondering if there's a way we can make that language a little more general, and maybe not narrow it down to fish and chips, but maybe call it a restaurant. But I'm also concerned that there might be other uses for that site that we don't envision. And if we keep the lease to just those uses, that we're going to be seeing this lease a number of times over the course of the history of our relationship. Wondering if we can simplify that process by making it more general. I'm not sure if that's a question for you or for our attorney or for, it just boils down to who's moving to the mic.
Hello, I am Annika Bjorkman, property manager in the real estate department, working with Tom Aliotti on this modification.
Isn't that fun?
He's great. I like him. We can generalize it. The one caution is then we lose control of what's happening on the property. So it's kind of a, what would you like us to do?
Yeah, Mike, again, my biggest concern is I really don't care if he's doing it for an approved use. If he's got some retail in there, that would be nice. As long as we're putting a business down there on that site, I really don't care. I know we want to keep it in the marine trades, and I know Fish and Chips does strike you as that, but I don't care if it's a fish market or a coffee shop, right? If he puts a coffee shop down there, it's just as useful. So I just think it's too limiting a language, and I'd like to find a way to make it a little more broad so that it gives a little more latitude.
Right, and I echo what real estate's saying. It can be as broad or as narrow as the parties wish it to be. So if the tenant is looking for something more broad to fit within kind of more broad permitting requirements, for example, we can do that. One suggestion I would have is that we would want to take a look at the assignment provision. So what we typically do is if we broaden out that use provision, then we tighten up the assignment provision, just to be very clear that even though the use is very broad for this particular tenant, if there's to be an assignment down the road, we'd want to take a look and make sure that that assignee has a very tight use. We don't want it to be so broad and have the lease be assigned, and it can kind of be a free-for-all down there. But we can negotiate that between the parties.
So in the interest of keeping this on the
This is
consent,
This is a small property. We're not going to going to be doing residential here, because it's just too small, right?
Correct.
Yeah, and I would never, right now, I just want to keep it in the business realm, and I just want to envision what might be useful. And I don't want to remove it from the consent agenda because there's action items that need to happen on their part to make some of this happen. But I know the city's having issues with making it a fish and chips operation, and
Well, that has to do with it not being on an arterial road, which we're going to address in a sub-area plan amendment. But for the interest of keeping this on the consent, I'm going to suggest we just strike the language in 4.1 that says fish market, comma, fish and chip, and we leave restaurant and professional offices.
yeah, again, I'm thinking more along the lines of what if there's a coffee shop that wants to go in there or a small retail space? Does that is that in keeping with that language? Is that your?
Yes.
Yeah, that coffee shop would definitely work within restaurant. If you're looking at retail, though, that wouldn't necessarily fit within professional offices. So you'd need to make an additional modification with a
Yeah, and I don't know if he wants that or not.
delineation.
I'd caution against going retail as being too general too, because then what happens if he wants to put a pot shop in there? I think you want some say on that. I'm not saying you don't want to put it in there, but you want some say on that. And
Agreed.
there may be other retail that you want some say on. But a restaurant seems like you said, if we're gonna have fish and chips, you're gonna have a restaurant, what's the difference
You're
between?
gonna have a coffee shop,
Right,
that's fine.
right.
Okay. Yeah, I just know that this has the potential to come back numerous times as the business plan gets fleshed out. And with no fleshed out business plan, we're kind of, it's a crapshoot.
So for Commissioner Shepard and Commissioner Briscoe, the consent agenda item E, section 4.1, will be striking the language fish market, fish and chip, and we'll be leaving restaurant and professional offices.
And then just for purposes of getting this all kind of neat and tidy, so Carrie, you could do that on the version that the port agrees to execute, and then just initial that. And so when the other party signs, although usually they sign before we get these on the consent agenda, let me just double check. Yeah. So then we'd want to get that back to the tenant and have them initial as well, that change in use, and then we'll be good to go. And we can facilitate that if that's easier.
I can handle that. Thank you.
You two good with that? Michael?
Yeah, I'm good. I mean, obviously Tom wants to talk with someone about what he wants to do there, and
No, Bobby, I went
mean-
rogue on this one. I just read that thing, and I know Tom well enough to know that, he's like water on a hot skittle. Or is it grease? So that tying it down is probably unwise at this point because and then I heard that there was issues with getting the fish and chips through. So I knew it was going to come back at least once. So this was all me.
that's fine. I mean, I just feel like we're all right. Well, as long as Rob's comfortable with what he put forward there, striking in the 4.1 there and changing it, I'm good with that. And then I'm sure we're going to have to tune it up later when we finally figure out what's going to go on there.
Okay.
Is that correct, Rob?
Yeah, I think if we, well, it depends. If we get the sub-area plan amendment done and everything goes to plan and we allow a restaurant in there, he may not have to come back. But if he decides he wants to do some sort of retail in there, he would have to come back, which I think is probably fair.
Okay. No, I'm good with it.
Yep, sounds good.
Okay. Carrie?
Motion to approve consent agenda items A through L with the 4.1 modification.
Commissioner Briscoe?
Yes.
Commissioner Shepard?
Yes.
And I am a yes. Okay. Now. Presentation, I'll introduce Mike Hogan.
Good afternoon, Port Commissioners. Mike Hogan, Public Affairs Administrator. Today it's my great honor to welcome Nick Hartridge and Gretchen Leggett from representing Paper Whale. Paper Whale does a really important function for the port. It's a way we connect with the artist community and get ideas for creating a sense of place on our downtown waterfront, increasing public access to the water, really important objectives as we move forward with our downtown waterfront redevelopment. And so you've probably seen Gretchen's, the largest mural in the state of Washington on the side of the cogen plant. as well as the stickers on cars throughout Washington, and so and buildings throughout Bellingham and other places. And I've had a honor of working with Nick for many, many years when he was, through many different roles. And anyway, they've done some terrific things for us and for our community. And we thought it would be prudent to have them speak for a few minutes about what they've done and what we have to look forward to in the years to come. So Nick, Gretchen, thank you.
You know, you have this one life. Should we not make it beautiful?
We're going for a very bold painting. Mostly we want to make it bold.
Nice English accent.
Justin, can you turn it up at all? Okay, great.
Imagine there's no La Sagrada Familia. There's no Eiffel Tower. There's no troll under the Fremont Bridge. There's no secret mosaic steps in San Francisco. There's no Banksy. There's no JR. There's no murals across town. What kind of world do we live in without public art?
A world without public art is just monochromatic. There's no sense of place. We expect to see gray buildings, we expect to see brick buildings, and a splash of chroma amidst that monochromatic scheme is just beautiful. It's delightful, it's humor, it's spontaneity, it's communication. It is just something that makes us human and celebrates humanity. Paper Whale has just been magic. Getting creatives together in the same room, melding minds and just dreaming together, scheming together, and really beginning to envision the Bellingham that we want is an empowering thing. And I think that we're really going to do some incredible work.
We're just going to encourage people to love the land a little bit more, to love their community a little bit more, and to protect it a little bit more. That's really, really what I want to do. Plus, I just like painting big stuff. It's fun. I just want to have more fun, honestly, in this life. And that's that.
Paper Whale, we are just getting started.
Thanks for entertaining that welcome video. My name is Nick Hartrick. I'm a co-founder of Paper Whale, and I've been in Bellingham 25 years, and 20 of those years I've spent working on economic development, energy efficiency, and renewable energy for our business community here, and really thrilled to give you an update on what we've been doing with Paper Whale. And
My name is Gretchen Leggett, and as Hogan explained, I am a muralist here in Bellingham. I've had the opportunity of teaching in Bellingham Public School District for 13 years, and then I shifted my career to be a muralist and an activator of space.
And Gretchen and I met on this project. I was working for PSE. I convinced PSE that to stop around $500,000 a year of vandalism happening to their buildings to explore a project called Artility that I created to save money every year on some of the most heavily vandalized projects. And I called the only girl I knew in this community that could make it happen. And together we chomped off the bit and got the largest mural in Washington State. And it's just like prime location for setting the scene for Paper Whale. And so what is Paper Whale? Paper Whale started as an idea from the port of Bellingham, believe it or not. They came to me and said, hey, listen, Nick, can you present like a one-day festival of ideas so that we can get like lots of community feedback on what people want to see? And I pushed back, actually, and I said, yeah, I can do that. But what you're going to get, this is from all the placemaking Kapow series that we did downtown for 3 years. I said, what you're going to get is you're going to get a lot of great ideas, but no follow-through. And I think what you really want is you want a community of people behind you that support your idea. And so I said, listen, I have an alternative idea. You let us propose a monthly series where we bring inspirational placemakers and community developers from around the world, and let's create a vibe and a community that follows the progress of the port. And so why Paper Whale? Paper because it's the former pulp and paper mill plant. That's the paper. And whale because the blue whale in Lummi iconography, Lummi Nation, is the protector, represents the protector. And what we're working to do is preserve arts and culture. Does that make sense? Yep.
All right, so at Paper Whale, we do 3 things. And the first is to connect community. And how we do this is through monthly events. We offer free monthly artist speaker series to our community to engage people, to inspire people. These started out with about 40 attendees. This year, we've had back-to-back sold-out events with over 50 people on the waiting list. In the past year alone, we've had over 1,000 people attend these free events. They are activated and they are powerful. We are really encouraging the older residents, people who have been in Bellingham for a long time, for many years, and inviting in the new. And we're getting an incredible response. Some of the most powerful things that I've heard from people who are new to Bellingham, they're telling us, I wish that I had known about this. I would have moved here years ago. And the exciting thing is that this is just the beginning.
Okay, so we also produce experiences on the waterfront. Why the waterfront? Because this is the most exciting and raw piece of land that we've got. We've heard about economic development happening down there. That is exactly what we're working to support. And so when I say experiences, I'm talking about events, I'm talking about cultural, syncing cultural identities in our community, because when we experience events and together, they're more meaningful together. And so this really is about supporting the port through the lens of the community, okay? We get whatever we're doing, whatever recipe we're doing, people are showing up. And I'll mention this a little bit later, but we are really acting as translators for the work that's happening on the waterfront with the community.
So speaking of the work that we are doing on the waterfront, our third goal is to catalyze community projects. And how we are doing this is through the activation of people and imagination. We are inspiring the public. And when people are inspired, they take action. And when action is made, it creates positive change, which is exactly what we are doing. Now, one of the wonderful things about the way that we move and the way that we are implementing these ideas is we have some wonderful connections with different people and groups in this community. For example, this is a project that we did with our friends of Lummi Nation and Children of the Setting Sun production. From the moment that we got the green light on this project on the board mill building, we had it up and installed within 2 weeks. So we have the power, backed by the community, to work quickly and to manifest these projects. So one of the things that we are incredibly excited about and that we find of great importance is to uplift and promote a diversity of local artists. We have some incredible alliances with groups like Lummi Nation, and we are going to tell you about some other opportunities to work with artists and groups from all over the U.S. Finally, the story of what Paper Whale is doing has a thread, and it continues. For example, this is an artifact from our monthly speaker series. Every month that we have a speaker series, we have live artists painting from all over the state of Washington and beyond. So each part of this whale is a different contribution that artists have made. We are already through this whale and moving on to our second pod.
Okay, like I mentioned, so we act as a bit of a conduit between what's happening on the port and where the community's at. Because like, look in this room right now, like this is actually pretty awesome attendance for Tuesday night when it's 75 degrees outside, but we crank this thing all through the winter time, and they're like an interactive party. So this, if you could just think about like how to engage the community where the community is at that knows nothing about what's going on with the port. Like, we are your advocates in this process as this waterfront is being developed, and we make it tangible for them to understand how the development process happens, what the timelines are. Mike Hogan and Brian Gowron have been really instrumental in helping help people understand what's taking place out down there, and our role is to get them involved.
So with this involvement, this is a picture from one of our community engagement activities. Our speaker series are like TED Talk meets Think Tank. So we listen, we facilitate community, and we bring ideas to fruition. So in this think tank, our members, the attendees of the Paper Whale event, created 35 project ideas, all community generated. And from this, we narrowed them down to 8. So these are 8 of the ideas that our community has come up with and generated. And the port, we asked for your input. These were isolated down to 4, in which your staff asked us to move forward. The first one I would like to speak about is the Mural Festival. This is going to be taking place at the base of the Paulson stage this August 18th through the 20th. We had an absolutely resounding number of applicants. Over 135 artists from around the world applied to this first inaugural festival. And we are talking talented, very talented artists whose work I admire greatly. We have narrowed this down to 8 finalists who are going to be live painting in the space. We have 11 runner-ups who are going to be activating the wall that is currently covered, the community wall that is dividing the build on Granary Ave, the construction site. And we have 7 tribes, members of 7 tribes creating a Indigiversal collective wall, which will be a 150-foot-long mural on the south side of the pump track. And that is going to be led by Kaplan Bunce, who was the gentleman in the video that we introduced you with.
And I'll just say one more thing on that. The Indigiversal collective wall will be on Granary Avenue, which she mentioned, but also Gretchen and I brokered 3 prize walls so that the community comes down and votes on their favorite artists. And these muralists are coming from Calgary, Ottawa, Truckee, Honolulu. Yeah, they're coming from everywhere to come to Bellingham, Washington. And this will be a thing in this community. We just got to get through the first year with, we're like overwhelmed by who's showing up for this. But we've brokered 3 prize walls in town, meaning the community votes on their favorite artist, and then they get $10,000 walls downtown. We don't take a commission of that. We just want to see this art right here replicated on walls downtown. Because it's not all about Gretchen's art in this town. And does everybody know, have everybody seen her work, her artwork? You don't know? Okay, we're gonna flag you down after this, yeah. The goal is to expand the diversity of that art, because it can't all look like one artist. And Gretchen will be, well, I just said it, but she'll be the second person that says it, if she says it. Yeah, but she's on board for that. Okay, so 3 of the other projects, I'll go cruise through real quick. This winter, we want to bring you the Woodstove Festival, which is, it's called Fire and Story. And really what this is that we're going to have 3 artists fabricate large community fire pits that we activate one night a month. And we bring stories from Indigenous elders in the community. We bring the Fisher poets down here. We bring Ray Troll in. We bring in the Good Time Gals. And I want to talk about history, heritage, and story around a fire pit with the community and have these be pieces of art. And again, we don't gather on the waterfront in the winter typically, but we will be soon, and we'd like to kick that off. Another project that was proposed is the sauna portal, and this would be working with existing port infrastructure and bringing in wood-fired saunas so that we can bring a culture of people that come down there. And again, the goal is to extend existing infrastructure, so like the Portal Container Village, let's activate Club Riviera in the winter. Let's get Trackside going throughout these winter months. And it's going to take time to get there, but these are ideas that we feel a need and a void in these winter months. And the last idea
This is the Confluent Pea Patch. This was an idea that was submitted to bring green down to the waterfront spaces. This design was inspired by the mudflats of in that area's original state, and we listened to your staff, and based on the feedback, we are shrinking this all down into a smaller community-led pea patch.
Okay, and then just so the community is aware, because we always like you to feel invited, come to the next Paper Whale. Like, Ken, we'd love for you to come check one of these out. And Bobby, same for you. Michael, we know you've been to one before, but on September 6th, we're bringing in a Mayan storyteller, Priscilla Dobler-Dazul. She's an incredible storyteller and artist, and we're going to continue these in October, and we're going to continue these in November. And like, really the goal here is just to get as many people in the community understanding what's happening on our waterfront and to take a role in how it's developed and designed. So we are really honestly thrilled that the port made this project happen. And keep in mind, like, we grab funding from other places. Like I didn't mention this, but the Community Foundation matched the port's funding to kick this off. So we do this for free. We volunteer our butts off to make this thing happen just because this is what we love to do. So I think I want the port to know, and the commissioners, Ken, like, I want you to know that we're excited to carry this forward, and we want to know, like, what are we missing, and what are you excited about?
Put me on the spot.
Well,
Well, I want to see it go forward, and quite frankly, we've got 7 bullets down there that need to be beautified, or at some level transformed. I love what happened with the acid ball. So yeah, would love to see that, but I have not seen a more beautiful painting than I've seen at the front of that portal. You know, is that yours? The entry?
Container?
Yeah.
No, that was one of our artists, Sarah Finger.
Yeah,
I
just
collaborate with her. I've done murals with her. Yeah.
But the color in the entrance is just spectacular. Yeah, so no, I love what you're headed for. And quite frankly, you're gonna make this Bellingham. And for you to say that at some point we're gonna get recognized, if you've got people coming as far away as you have with the names that you're claiming to have, we're already there. So it's just a matter of building on that reputation. So I'm excited to see that happen. I'm also excited to see the ideas, because whenever people collaborate and put ideas on the table, the hard part is the implementation. I mean, you nailed it. You can have a bunch of ideas floating around a room, but actually getting it done is the tough part. But the more ideas, the better. No, and I will be there. I will also come on September 6th, so yeah. Commissioner Briscoe, you got anything?
No, great work. And thanks for the volunteer hours that you put in. I'm sure there's a lot.
Commissioner Shepard?
Yeah, fun presentation. Sorry I can't be there in person to be there with you, but I appreciate all the work that both of you have done. I've been able to attend a couple of the Paper Whale events, and they're really have been fantastic. Great blending of community coming together, and one of the things I've loved seeing is just a group of people who are excited about pouring some energy, talent, and creativity into our waterfront. And that's exciting to me. And so I want to keep nurturing that going into the future. Definitely want to thank Brian Gowron for his role in moving this forward. He's been instrumental in attending these events, helping to line up some of this funding, and just making this happen throughout the process. So good work there. And, you know, I think this continues the opportunity to hear one of my favorite comments when I'm down at trackside and at the waterfront is people frequently say, you know, this just feels like Bellingham down here. Feels like Whatcom County in how it's been developed. And I think that's really true. And projects like this are going to help us to keep it feeling and looking like and being an experience that is reflective of our community. So good work, and look forward to these in the future. And, you know, some wintertime activation is super creative and interesting. And I think it's going to really bring together a great mix of community. Thanks.
So just a personal note, I don't want to see this area go away, and I don't want to see it commercialized to the point where it no longer makes it Bellingham. I mean, it would be very easy to become a Bellevue or something different. And right now, it is probably one of the most dynamic, interesting places you will ever visit on the face of the earth. I just absolutely love it. This will help cement that, so it will not go away. It was intended to be a temporary solution to bringing people to the waterfront. And I dare anybody to try to take it away now, right? So the more roots we can put in, the more ideas we can put on the table, and the bigger this can be. The ideas that you threw out will just make this a better place, and it will always be there. What a great legacy to leave behind, right? So yeah, that would be the goal. Let's plant some roots, make it stay. Thank you.
We will not slow down.
Thank you.
Yeah, and make sure we get the I'm sure we're already doing this, but having the mural festival out on our social media, Mike, so we're making sure to broadcast and that we can all make sure it's on our calendars as well.
Are you beautifying the electric boxes around town too?
Yeah, I mean, we had a hand in part of that, but the traffic control signals downtown are done by the city's
Traffic
Arts
control.
Commission. So you've seen electrical boxes, those were something that we had to do with, and if they're traffic boxes, that's the city.
Yeah, but it started something.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Excellent, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, we have one action item. Carrie, if you don't mind.
Sure. Authorize a budget increase for Bellingham Shipping Terminal main pier repairs.
You are.
Hello, Commissioners. Larry Skolton, Senior Project Engineer. I'm here to provide a brief project overview and answer any questions you might have regarding this project. Before I begin, there was a slight typo in the action memo. The key corporate goals listed are 2023 goals, not 2019 goals. Let's see. Okay, so this action memo is requesting a 2023 budget amendment of $11.2 million to the shipping terminal capital project shown on the screen. I think you guys are familiar with it from the recent 2024 budget retreat. So I would like to just take a quick look back and provide a brief overview of how we got to where we are today.
We're still seeing the paper whale on the screen.
Okay, so so essentially, I'll give you a brief. Let's see. Well, maybe I'll just wait. So that's okay. So here's the project.
Commissioner Shepard, are you now seeing the shipping terminal?
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, so Bellingham Shipping Terminal, or most of it. The focus of this project's the yellow box in the middle, and then the blue shaded area in the water. And I'll talk a little bit about that. So brief project history. So in 2019, this project was a little bit of everything. It had the dredging, but it also had pile jacketing, removal of the chemical pier, and utility work. So in 2020, we were awarded a grant from the Maritime Administration, or MARAD, an agency of the Department of Transportation. And the project at that time effectively shifted to a more long-term commerce and terminal focus. And that really, part of that is because it was a better fit with MARAD's mission, which is to foster, promote, and develop the maritime industry. They wanted to see something that, a project that was a little more long-term instead of a 20-year pile jacketing project. They wanted to see, a 50-year wharf improvement project. So today, in 2023, our environmental process is nearing completion, and the project is essentially maintenance dredging of both berths 1 and 2, and then heavy lift area replacement along with some minor repairs of the south terminal. So the maintenance dredging is the blue shaded area, And then the replacement of the heavy lift area is this yellow box in the middle.
Just a quick question on that.
Sure.
Does that mean that the crane is going to be limited to the heavy lift area? Or will it have the ability to, do we have enough strength along the pier that it can travel? Or
Not yet, so.
So the
that
cargo's
would be
gonna
a
have to
future
come-
Project. So right now, our goal is to get it on the wharf and operational, and this will go a long ways in doing that, is it'll put that mobile harbor crane to use. And there'll be few restrictions for anybody using the wharf. Right now, we have weight restrictions, there's some damage, stuff like that. This'll make it much more usable space out there. Let's see. Yeah, so I think that's really my background. So if you guys had any specific questions.
Yeah, just to follow up on that. So basically the material is going to have to come to the crane. The crane won't be able to travel the length of the boat.
For this project, yes. So
Be a barge basically that'll pull up in that area and
Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah, so, right now, like the ships that have been coming in, you need 120 feet between them in order to just so that you're not overloading the wharf. This will be 140 feet long, so they'll be able to put unload ships, which tend to be about, the cranes on a ship are around 100 feet apart, 120 feet. This'll accommodate that. They'll still be able to use more of the wharf, but the potential to run like a crane rail along the whole wharf would be a decision for a future project that might be associated with the cleanup project that's coming through, the Waccamaw Way cleanup, or a standalone project or something like that. But it would be a future decision.
Commissioner Shepard, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I seem to remember that the dredging would help us to speed up some of the load and unload time with like when ABC comes for its ships, because it would allow us to get closer and do a more efficient process for getting that cargo moved. Am I remembering that correctly?
Yeah. So if you can see the blue shaded area, there's a thin strip along berth 1. We've had some sloughing, so the ships can't sit right up against the wharf, and the closer they are to the wharf, the faster they can work. It's a 20. Right now, we might have to offset a ship 15 feet. That's 20% of the distance that the crane has to move the cargo. So if you have multiple loads being moved by a crane, if you can reduce that by, maybe 20%, that's my estimate, then yeah, you're going to increase the production rate. The heavy lift area in that crane is going to do that as well. I think that, I'm not sure of the production rate of that crane, but it has a lot bigger capacity than, the equipment that like ABC Recycling is using. It has, you can reach 157 feet and move 20 tons with this thing. So, and then the closer you get to the wharf, the more weight it can handle. So yeah, it definitely, the dredging and the heavy lift area are both going to increase production out there.
Okay. Well, I like that. That's a good news story for our residents that were, are impacted by operations down there. And so it's nice that we're able to show some investments that we're making to speed up time for loading and unloading, so we can make that happen as quickly as possible and just reduce the impact whenever we can.
Yep.
Tell me about how we're funding this. I know we have about $7 million in grants that we worked hard to get. How are we financing the rest of this?
Yeah, so the grant is $7.4 million from the Maritime Administration. Tamara is funding the rest of it, as far as I know.
Yeah, this is kind of a good time to have this come forward as we're heading into budget season. So we'll need to reprioritize those projects in the next few years to allow for this extra funds.
So we're moving money for this, not issuing any debt to cover it. Is that what I'm hearing?
Correct. We're using port cash.
It's a big project. Are we confident that we can, as we're working through our budget season, that we're still able to meet our other objectives and interests and with this big expense? And are we positioned to potentially bond or borrow in the future if we need to?
Yeah, so we will need to reprioritize because this is $11 million that we weren't anticipating. We're currently bonding a couple of projects, a smaller amount than we had anticipated. So we do have additional bonding capacity in the future if we need to.
Okay.
Commissioner Briscoe?
No, I kind of all been covered there. It's a limited heavy lift area, but it's what it is. I'd like to see that extended at some point in time, but I know it all takes money, so we'll do what we can, and it is what it is. I don't have any questions. It's all pretty self-explanatory. Thank you.
Yeah, this is kind of one of those field of dreams things where if you build it, they will come. We just know that if we have we're not going to get anybody if we don't have the capacity. And we have a huge investment in that crane and in that infrastructure that's down there and in this business model, as it were. So to step away from that business model now would be foolish. And I do think that we then have to look at economic development and say, where are we going to get the customers? Because that's a big need. It'll pay for itself in a very short period of time, once it's activated and once the customers understand what's there. I'm thinking out loud, as you can imagine, because it's good money, it's good work, it's a tremendous asset if we can just get it built, but it's a huge pill to swallow at that price tag.
And do we feel like we've investigated any additional grant funding, and we don't expect to be able to meet that gap in funding with any other federal resources at this point?
Not in the time frame that we need to, Commissioner. We need to get this issued and out to bid to hit the fish window and get the work done. We could wait around for grants, but we wouldn't hit this fish window then and it'd just delay us longer and have to stand those ships off the dock longer. That 15 feet standoff is a big deal.
Yeah. When would this be operational?
We're still finalizing the environmental process right now. It's taking a little longer than we'd hoped. Right now, we're right at the cusp of getting work started this year. But it's fine enough of a line that we may not want, if we can't get that heavy lift area demoed and the piles pulled and the new piles driven before the fish window ends, then Tiffany may not want us to do that work this year. We may want to, start it next year when we can guarantee that all that work would be done in a single fish window.
Can I jump in? Commissioners, Tiffany DeSimone, Director of Maritime, and all of what Larry just said is correct. If I could just give you just a really kind of, I don't want to say quick, but distilled down timeline of kind of why we're coming to you now before 2024 budget season is we're on a deadline with that MARAD grant. We're required to sign for that by September 30th. And so in order to do that, we need to make sure that we have the funding. We need to make sure MARAD knows we have the funding to do the project. And so in order to sign for that and get out to bid and potentially start work in this fish window, if a contractor thinks that they can complete the work, the in-water work within a single fish window, because we don't want it shut down twice. So we're sort of backed up to that signing for the MARAD grant, which is why we're coming to you now.
Thanks, Tiffany. That helps with the understanding the timeline. Nobody wants to give away federal money that we've worked hard to get. And I know they're not typically very flexible on their deadlines. So anytime we have use it or lose it money, it helps my decision making that we've got to prioritize making this happen and getting the most out of this project as we can.
Yeah, and while I'm on my soapbox, I can't, we've had a lot of challenges in getting through the environmental process, but the MARAD team has gone above and beyond in helping us recover some of that time. So it's not all these big Fed agencies that are just hampering us. We got some that are really doing a lot of good work out there, and our new port liaison that we have for environmental, Sarah Tilley, she's our U.S. Fish and our NMFS rep, and she's amazing. She's really turning stuff around quickly. So I felt I needed to say some good stuff about them, even though it's been
good to hear.
Over a year in getting, just through some of the environmental process.
Is that position you were speaking of one that the Washington Ports Joint Fund?
Yep, one of, yeah.
Oh. Good to hear that one's going well. All right.
Bobby, one last kick at the can.
No, just full speed ahead. We'll get her done. The longer we wait, the more it's going to cost. We're seeing that every day. So good job, team. Let's keep pushing. Let's get her done.
I'm 100% on that page, and I just know that the earning capacity for this is so much greater than just about anything else we've got in the port inventory. It's not measured by the square foot. I mean, this has got the ability to bring in tremendous revenues. Not looking at anybody in particular, but it would be nice to have customers banging on the door saying to us, you got to look me in the eye when I'm talking to you. Banging down the door saying, when is that thing going to be ready? That it's incumbent upon us to make sure we've got customers lined up as soon as we're ready to go, because that will also help us pay for it down the road if we know we've got customers waiting in the wings. So no pressure or anything, but.
I know this takes care of two of the biggest things that come my way is the dredging, the depth, and the loading. So it's like, this is going to lighten the load on me in the future, that's for sure, because it'll definitely be a useful terminal compared to what it is right now.
We live to lessen your load.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm good. You guys ready for a vote? Commissioner Shepard?
Yep.
Oh, Carrie, would you like to read the?
Yes. Authorize a budget increase for BST main pier repairs.
Commissioner Shepard?
I'm a yes.
Commissioner Briscoe?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. I feel the weight of this one. Rob, I do. Because it's yeah. I feel the weight of this one. Okay, gentlemen, anything else?
I have no items today.
Commissioner Briscoe?
I have nothing.
And I have nothing. Do we have anybody wishing to speak at the last public comment period today? Anybody online? Anybody in the room? Meeting adjourned.